So, hello everyone. Welcome to our woodland walk for today. And we have the amazing Eimear Burke with us as our guest, who is, and this is a fantastic title, which we will explore a little bit, the chosen chief of the Order of the Bards, Ovates, and Druids, or OBOD. Thank you very much for coming, Eimear. Welcome.
It's lovely to be here, Roz. Lovely to chat with you.
Ah. Well, so we have to first of all start with this amazing title for the people listening who will just, it's such an illustrious, amazing title. And yeah, but first of all, could you explain a bit about what that means to be the chosen chief of the Order of the Bards, Ovates, and Druids?
Well, I was chosen by Philip, my predecessor. That's what it means that within OBOD we don't have elections. So the previous chosen chief chooses the next one. Now I'm only the third one. So it's in the 60 plus years there've only been three. And I took over in 2020. So because we're worldwide, like it's a global order, we've what at this point about 37,000 members worldwide since we started. So it would be impossible to have an election, for example, to choose, for the members to choose. So, and anyway, even with democracy, not everybody votes the person who's elected anyway. So Philip and Stephanie asked me in 2017 if I'd like to be chosen chief. I didn't want it. I wouldn't have chosen it. I didn't think ever that I'd be chosen chief. It wasn't something that I had considered. I thought he'd be chosen chief forever, which is not very rational, but that's what I assumed because his leadership was just incredible. As a guardian, as a steward of the order, and allowing it to develop as it has. He has been amazing and very well respected and very well liked, etc. So I never thought he'd stop. So anyway, it was a big surprise when I was asked if I would do it.
Mm. And when you were asked, did you have any hesitation in taking it on, or did you feel a full yes?
Oh no, absolutely. How? No, was my original reaction. I thought, no. I mean, why me? There are other people who are way better. Genuinely, it came as a shock. We were in Italy. We'd been on a Druid gathering there, and we were in Rome, and they asked me, and no, that my I didn't. My reaction wasn't, "What took you so long?" It was absolutely no. And then they said, "Just wait and think," and so I did. I went, and I was on my own. I think had Howard, my husband, been alive, I think that might have been an easier decision to come to. Anyway, I did talk to him, and he said, "Go for it." So I did. But what was nice is that they asked me in 2017, and I didn't take over until 2020. So, and then we announced it in 2018. So people had a warning that something was coming down the line. Uh, and I think it was a very wise thing that often with succession in organizations where you have, a leader that's either charismatic or very well respected, etc. And when they die, for example, and it's not, the succession isn't prepared, it brings a lot of, I suppose, conflict, and often that, you know, damages the integrity of the organization. So he had, and Stephanie and Dave, that then are then a Pendragon, just thinking about this, so that he, interesting, when he made the announcement, he it was at the summer gathering in 2018. He did such a good job of the rationale for what he was doing that by the time he got to the who, people were on board with what he was doing. So it made it easier. So I think it was very well handled.
Mm. Well, I think that was the summer gathering that I was at and where I met you, actually. I think it
No,
was.
you that was 2022 you were at.
Oh, was it really? Oh gosh, my timeline's way
2018,
out.
2018 we made the announcement, and then it was to happen in 2020. That was
Ah,
COVID. So this was our first gathering in the flesh again after
yes.
COVID, and it was in the in the
Ah,
in the Abbey grounds in the Abbey,
yes.
because Philip and you had that conversation.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about psychedelics together, and
Yeah.
everyone in our community will know Philip from he does lovely Wheel of the Year videos for us. Um, and that summer gathering was really profound for me because there was this beautiful ceremony up at the top of the tour. And I would wonder if you could tell people a bit about that because it was something that I'm not actually a member of the order. We were just talking about it before this conversation about how actually that's another question I have for you. If you could tell people a bit about what it means to join OBOD and kind of because many people like me might think, oh, I don't have time, it's a big thing, but I would love, yes, so kind of two questions in one to tell us a bit about OBOD firstly, but then also the kind of ritual ceremony aspect, because for me, taking part in that ceremony was incredibly profound because I have taken part in ceremonies linked to other spiritual traditions, kind of ayahuasca traditions or other things, but taking part in this ceremony that was completely medicine free, but incredibly potent in this sacred site in the UK and feeling this kind of lineage and roots to my own tradition was absolutely mind blowing. So, yeah, two questions. First of all, OBOD, and then the ceremonial aspect.
Okay, so within OBOD, it's the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids, and it's a mystery school, it's a teaching order, and we have three grades. You start with the bar as a bard, ovate, and druid, if you wish. That's the path you take, but you must start at the bardic level when you join. You can't join and just say, "Oh, I just join and have a membership." No, it's you join and you sign up to a course, and it's by distance, and you can do it physically, with a hard copy of the gwers. That's a Welsh word meaning lessons, or you can do it online, and it also comes that you can have a mentor. So what happens is that each course lasts a year. So you get gwers or lessons, 4 lessons every month. So for 12 months. And you take your time. It took me 6 months, 6 years, no, not 6 months, 6 years to do the Bardic grade. And that is a kind of a foundational course where you engage with the Wheel of the Year, the ceremonies, you engage with the landscape and the seasons and the elements. And the focus on the Bardic grade is to develop, to discover, and I suppose develop your own creativity, your own. I use imas because it's an Irish word, but awen, which is that inspiration. Where do you get it from? Through working and developing your relationship with the landscape around you. So whether you're living in Ireland or the UK or in America or South America or the South, Australia, for example, you are encouraged to engage with your own landscape. So we're dogma free, which is just beautiful, and you're invited to follow these lessons and engage with your own landscape. But it's self-paced. Like you can do it in a year. I would say the longer you take, the better. And I know members at the end, and there's no exam. You do a review, and that's what's lovely. You don't get a qualification in Druidry. It is you sign up, and that's an invitation to walk through the forest. And like you talk about, we're in a woodland walk now. It's all about engaging with your landscape. So it's dogma free. So we have a very, very diverse membership. So, like I say, around 37,000 worldwide, on all continents and all nationalities and all backgrounds. You don't have to have Celtic ancestry, which is highly flawed anyway, that notion, but you don't have to have originated from these lands in order to join the order. And it's so diverse. Like we have Christian Druids, pagan Druids, animists, monotheists, polytheists, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, who are members, and they are encouraged to weave their own path, engaging with the gwers, the druidry, the ceremonies, but weaving in their own say foundational spiritual paths if they wish. So many of our members will have been scarred by their previous spiritual experiences and will go, never again. I found my home, I found my tribe, and this is what I'm going to do. And then there are others go, no, I found this and I really like it, but I also value where I came from. And then they're encouraged to weave the two together. And I would describe OBOD as like a salad. So when you've got all the leaves and the different textures, you can have nuts, seeds, cheese, meat, fish, or nut. Different kinds of dressings. So it's not a puree. So a puree is everything is assimilated. But what we do with the salad is that you have all these different textures and colours and flavours.
Oh, that's a beautiful analogy and so inclusive. Yeah, we all need more salad in our lives, I think.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And people who don't fit, societal norms will often say, I've come home, I found a place. So, it's, you know, different nationalities, colours, creeds, genders, sexual orientation. It's like it's a melting pot. No, it's not a melt. It's a salad because melting is like things get
Yeah.
sometimes
It's a
can get
mixing pot,
immersed.
a mixing bowl,
It's a
mixing
mixing
salad
bowl
bowl.
of, yeah, a beautiful cauldron of diversity.
Mm. And it's a wonderfully potent way from one of my best friends going through the Bardic grade herself, and from the contact I've had with it, it's a wonderful way for people to access that for some people, not for everybody, but some of the parts of the salad may like to find that incredibly deep, profound spiritual connection
Mhm.
without the use of psychedelics or, and it's this very, because a lot of meditation schools are, as you like, there's a lot of dogma, there's a lot of gurus. It's quite hard to find a place that's truly, I kind of want to use the word pure, but I don't really like the word pure, but there's something about people being able to access their own plug into the land and find their own very profound connection that is about more than the material. And you're linked to this kind of other group of people. So yeah, it's kind of a way of accessing spiritual insight that is truly your own and without the need for anything external apart from the land that you walk on.
That's right, and it's all about empowerment to do that. It's interesting. I was invited to open the IDPAT psychedelic conference in Trinity in November. I don't know if you were aware that it was on.
Oh,
So IDPAT is Irish Doctors for Psychedelic Assisted Therapy. And I was blown away the fact I was asked to do the opening as a Druid.
yeah. Wow.
So I got them chanting Ima. The title was Imas, which is the Irish word for inspiration, like Awen in Welsh.
Mm.
And I told this because I'm a storyteller. I told the story of Giancacht, the founder of medicine in Ireland, and his hubris. What happens?
Oh, I want to hear
And
that
and
story.
and Arva, his daughter, who is the patroness of herbalists in Ireland. But that blew me away. That this is in Trinity. We have this academics. It was the second year they did it, and then this year they had parallel sessions called Shomra, is the Irish word for room, but they had conversations, fireside chats, ritual on grief, ceremony,
Mm.
parallel to the academic papers.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing format for a conference and really exciting to think about this. I had a conversation with Philip a while ago about this idea of kind of psychedelics needing druidry. Maybe more than druidry needs psychedelics, but the idea that the psychedelic kind of field, like the need for elders and the need for lineage and the need for grounding, I think in some places is very real, and that druidry can maybe offer some of that.
And of course, within Nora, we don't encourage psychedelics. We don't discourage it. It doesn't come up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting at the end so I did the opening of this ceremony of this conference, and I did the closing. And the panel discussion just before the closing. So the academics were talking, and the question came up: what do you do if you're not using psychedelics? Because and one of them said you don't have to use them; they're not necessary. So I don't use them, but I'm adjacent. I mean, I'm not. I'm happy to be. I have respect for it. And then they were talking about the practices they use in addition to, and I stood up. I said, "You all sound like druids." So I think maybe psychedelics need druidry, but not the other way around.
Yes.
And there was also, in the Shomra sessions, that conversation around taking psychedelics. The context is really, really important. The relationality between the person who's taking the substance and the person who's caring for them, the spiritual practices, the ambience, all of that stuff, so important. It's not just about taking something and having a little trip.
Mm.
Uh, and I found that there was such a respectful handling of creating a beautiful context in which to explore the benefits and the experience of psychedelics.
Mm. Oh, that's exciting. Exciting and wonderful to know that you're really, yeah, you're really present in the field now, where that's wonderful to think about. So yeah, will you tell us a little bit about your kind of as much as you feel comfortable to share, because obviously it is a mystery school and maybe not everything should be shared straight away, but with the ceremony, the one that I witnessed at the top of the tour, just tell us a little bit about Druid ceremonies and what they mean to you.
Okay, so I mean that's a public ceremony that you were at. So Druids don't have churches, temples, whatever. So our we have ceremonies in a circle because that creates that container like a cauldron in which to invoke spirit, deity as you wish. Um, Originally, they would have been in groves, in clearings in the forest. Trees are really, really important to druids. And like any ritual, is that you are creating you're entering sacred time and sacred space. So the cauldron or the circle is the space. You mark it by some, like here when I do my, we don't do it an OBOD as, a cleanse or a blessing or something, people preparing. But the interesting thing is when in Glastonbury is we process from the town up the Tor. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was just, oh my goodness, I was tingling looking at these white robed figures going up the Tor. I was just tingling. It was just incredible. And then I started walking. And it's like that pilgrimage. And then you find your place in the circle. And like you say, you described it as profound, but I don't know if you have any other words you can describe it, because sometimes these experiences don't have words and they're beyond words, but you know it because you're feeling it and you're sensing it. And when you're creating a ritual or when you're in a ritual, you have an opening and a closing and a right in the middle. So it's like a sandwich. And the opening is calling to spirit. We call on Great Spirit. You are free to call on the goddess or the god if that's what you wish. We don't, the freedom is there. And then you call on the four quarters, the four directions, and they're associated with the various elements. So you're calling in the higher power, the great power, and then the archetypes from the four quarters. And that opens that space. We call on earth, sky, and sea. We have a breath for each one. And that earth, sky, sea, that triad, that triskel is very, very important in Irish culture. It's called on three Vishwar, the great triple spiral. Earth, sky, and sea, those three realms are really, really important in terms of maintaining the integrity of the individual in the land and maintaining the cosmos. So we call on, we take a breath. We call on peace for the four quarters. Peace is really important because central our role as druids is as, I suppose, peacemakers and peacekeepers. But it starts within ourselves, peace within our own being, and then within the grove, and then the greater circle of humankind. And then we have the right, whatever that is. So the one that you were at was around the light. It wasn't at the summer solstice. It's the beginning of June. We're never there at the summer solstice, but we know we're celebrating the growing light and the abundance in the landscape, etc. And that mystery that once we reach that peak, then we begin the decline. But summer isn't yet over until whenever it's over. Samhain actually means the end of summer.
Mm.
But we had, when you were there, we probably had 500, 600 people around standing on the Tor. And it's open to the public, so people come, with passers-by come and see it. And I think, I can't say, I get my summer solstices, my summer gathering rituals, get them mixed up because, we do them every year. But just a really profound sense of community connection. We've made that pilgrimage up to the top of the Tor. And it has magic itself, and they say the Mary and the Michael line meet there, those ley lines, and just being together. And, marking the wheel of the year in terms of ritual, these are the kind of maintenance rituals that keep us in tune with the landscape around us. And when we can look to the landscapes, I'm looking at it now, it's quite dull and damp. And I'm actually, this is a really quiet January for me. Normally I'm tearing around and finding a struggle to draw in, but actually this year I'm doing a good job of it. Just coming in and sitting by the fire.
Mm.
That when we look to the landscape and we also have an inner world that we're encouraged to develop through meditation, our own inner grove. So you don't have to be out in the woods if it's not possible. it's lovely to be out in the woods, but you can also develop your own inner grove. And when there's a synchronicity between my inner world and the outer world, then that brings a sense of harmony and balance to our lives. And that is very, very important, that there isn't too big a dissonance or discrepancy between our inner world and our outer world.
Mm.
So
Mm.
Druids have one world in this world. So and then there's the other world. Now, whether my inner world is the other world or not, and the outer world is the world, I don't get caught up in that. But that notion of being able to walk a leg in both.
Mm. Mm. Yes, there's a kind of softness about it, and maybe a slight ability to kind of um disentangle from the stresses and worries of everyday life when there's a yeah, can you talk a little bit about that, about kind of what Druidry can offer, or how it offers you in these times of kind of cultural transition, ecological grief? Like, how does Druidry help you navigate that?
Well, I suppose what's really important is my connection to the earth and to the place where I live. Now, I belong here. I I don't. I'm not from here. I live in Kilkenny. I'm from the Midlands in Ireland, but I have found a place where I belong, and it's that connecting with my landscape and trees. And I think in times of stress and grief, that's where I've been able to go to actually sustain me. And it's not about doing anything elaborate. It's about just being, sitting still and noticing. Uh, Breathing with a tree, for example, is a really, really soothing, empowering exercise to do. Not even wondering what kind of a tree is it, where does it grow, blah, 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 but actually listening to the tree and what it might say to you. And breathing, sharing your breath with the tree. Really, really profound. So that's what I
Mm.
do when I walk in the woods. There's certain trees that I know and I spend time with, and always sharing. I chant to them and then share breath with them, because we do that anyway. But
Mm.
it's doing it mindfully is a very grounding experience. And we're living, I thought 3 or 4 years ago the world was crazy. I thought it was crazy when COVID happened. And it's like, no, you can't get any worse, but it seems to. And this is where we as a community, me and as a community with people and members of the order and my friends and family all around that, but also my community with the world around me, with the trees, the plants, the earth, the rivers, the rocks, to maintain that connection and that awareness of our connection is something that I'm hoping, maybe I'm deluded, but that's my anchor, that's my lifeline, that with the connection with the earth, that somehow some kind of reason will prevail.
Mm.
Everything will pass, this too shall pass. Things will change, because things come in cycles, and the madness will change. Now, whether it'll come soon enough is another question.
Mm.
But to not lose hope and not to give in to fear and despair about what's going on. I think the teachings that I have found from OBOD and and then things I've developed as I've matured, are the things that ground me and resource me and fill me, so that I'm mindful of not allowing myself fall into hopelessness and despair. It's easy, because each day I read something, it's like, oh my God, is this getting worse? And when are we next? Because for so long, all the bad things were happening over there or far away, and now it's getting closer and closer and closer. And we need to step up as strong, peace loving beings
Mm.
to just to even stand sometimes in silence. I was watching the protests a few months ago. There were some, I think, in the Nordic countries. I think it was maybe Sweden, maybe Norway, where they had silent marches.
Mm.
Not a word. And I remember watching them and feeling really moved, just holding little white bundles or whatever it was. Very, very profound. You can go out and
Mm.
fight to and wave a thing as well. But I was just, sometimes it's about standing in silence.
Mm. Beautiful. What a beautiful image. And bringing that peacefulness to the protest so that it can never be, so that any attempts to kind of malign it or see it as disruptive or terroristic in itself, it's like we're standing here peacefully. There's no way this can be misconstrued. We are
And
silent.
I've been criticised for talking about peace starts within. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter whether you're a warrior, whether you have a sword, whether you're a martial artist, whether you're a protester, whether you're a boxer, you have to.
Mm.
Even if you're an assassin, I'm not approving of assassinations, but if you haven't got that still center,
Mm.
and anger can destroy you. And anger, I mean, righteous anger is fine. I mean, I'm not against anger or not against fear, any of those feelings, but it's about allowing peace within your heart as well, coming from
Mm.
that place.
Yes, and to feel the anger and then to be able to restore that balance so that you can actually act in a way that is positive. I saw a film yesterday. It was called The Voice of Hind Rajab. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a beautiful film about a little girl in Palestine.
I know of it. I haven't seen it. Was
I
it
was
very painful?
I was prepared in advance for how what it was going to be like, and it was, for about 2 minutes in, just kind of cried. I mean, even just remembering it now makes me want to cry. It was witnessing it and observing it was such a thing to be part. The amount of even just watching that through the whole film and feeling it in your being, the experience of it was that I came out of the cinema and I just felt complete rage. I felt so angry that initially I felt like yeah, it was, my partner was kind of like getting me in the car, like safely in the car. And I just said, I feel like I want to fight. But then centering, bringing myself back, meditating, and actually the visualization of a tree really helps me. I was sitting in the car, just imagining the roots and thinking, I'm no use to anyone in this state of like rage, but coming back and then thinking, okay, what can I do? What one thing can I do in honor of this thing that I've watched? And then that starts to feel like, okay. It, but finding that center is yeah, it's a hard thing to do in these times because we're so bombarded. You see one thing and then you see another thing and then you see something else, and it's tempting to just lose the centering and just give into the rage and never come back. But
That's right.
yeah, we have to find another way.
And rage begets rage, and this is where that quiet, peaceful protest, and remain calm in yourself so that you can discuss, argue, whatever it is really important because anger begets anger, violence
Mm,
begets violence.
yes. Yes, and that's what I was so amazed to feel in myself, that feeling of kind of vengeance. I felt like I wanted to
Yeah,
avenge a death. And I'm not normally somebody who feels impulses of violence. And that just made, I mean, it's so deep within all of us.
yeah,
But yes, we have to, yeah, have to find another way somehow.
yeah. It's not about being hum all the time because we're
Yes.
not. We're human beings, but it's about recognizing it and then bringing ourselves back. Because yeah,
Mm,
I mean, I get really raging. Oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm capable of. I just have to watch to come back
yeah.
to that still center.
Because I suppose it's from that still center that the real vengeance that we seek, that we need to fight for, is not going to be one that we can fight for with fists and violence. It's going to come from that place of steady campaigning, conversations. What I decided to do was talk to my family because my family I find their political views are very much at odds with mine. So I urged my mother I just begged her to go and see the film, and she said that she would, and that already felt like a huge step. And I was like, okay, this is how change happens, through asking people to see the film, and maybe they will consider how they vote differently, or yeah, that kind of thing.
It's about invitation rather than insistence, and yeah, it's. I was doing. I had an interview earlier today, and we were talking about shape shifting, and I taught academically for 27 years human development to development workers, mainly overseas and Irish people. And there was an exercise by Joanna Macy that I've used for years and years, a really, really profound exercise where you get people in groups and they speak from their own perspective on an issue that's really important to them. So the environment, we'll say. And then they speak from a perspective that's completely opposite to that. And then they speak from a non-human perspective, and then a perspective of somebody from the future. And initially they said, oh, I can't do it. So I said, how can I get in and speak? I said, just do. Just enter their world for a few moments. It's not about agreeing. It's about what's it like to be that terrible person for a moment with those awful views. Something shifts. And it's not about getting to agree with them, but something shifts. And if you can move and somebody else can move, those little shifts can be really, really profound. I led with a colleague, friend, Sean O'Guigan, as a member of the Order as well, a retreat in Donegal 2 years ago, about the story of Bearog. Bearog is a little Druid woman who saves Lou, who eventually kills his grandfather. It was a whole prophecy. And there's 5 archetypes in the story. There's Balor with the evil eye. There's Bearog, the wise druid. There's the mother, the father, and Lugh, the hero. And actually, but the real hero is Bearog and the mother. Anyway, another story. But I got them in a group, okay, speaking from each perspective. And at that time, there was 5 groups. By the end of the process, because people were just talking, and if you can hear or identify what the other person's saying, the smallest little thing that they're saying, then move towards them. And in the end, we were in a circle. I didn't know that was going to happen. But each person had to take on an archetype. And it's like, speak from that, and stay there, and then see what can happen. It was really profound. And it's that, just like getting your mother to just go to the film. Has she gone?
So it was yesterday I saw her. I phoned her afterwards after my anger had kind of slightly dissipated enough. My partner was like, be nice to her, be nice to her, don't be very gentle. And all I could really say was my mum to like, please will you promise me you'll go? And she said, it's not on in any cinemas near me. And I said, can you look a little bit further and see? And she found it further. And so she's she's identified a screening time. They're going to drive to the next town and sometime this week that she's going to go. So I hope she will.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting because films can allow you an insight into other. And, as humans, we watch something, it's a bit of theatre or a film or whatever, and it's like, oh shit, somehow we're able to shapeshift and put ourselves into the shoes of that other person
Mm,
or that situation. And all you want is that tiny little bit, just
yes.
rethinking,
Seeing through other eyes. Well, that brings on to another question I had for you, which is really around storytelling. So the storytelling is you are the kind of half-side storyteller, story keeper. Can you tell us a bit about how that has evolved in your life? So you're a psychotherapist. And as you said, you worked teaching human development for a long time. The power of story, how did that emerge through your life to where you are now?
Oh, it's an interesting one. I was always a good joke teller. And I remember being at a gathering of shamans actually, and I was telling jokes. And somebody said, oh, you should be on television. I said, no, these are of no value. These are just jokes. So what I would do is I would hear a joke and say, oh, that's a great joke. And then I'd embellish it. So, which is the weaving of the stories. And I remember being on the bardic grade and I said, I'm not a bard. God, I can't write a poem. I can't do anything. And Howard, my husband, could spit out poetry while he's waiting for the bread to bake in the oven. He would. He was constantly doing stuff. I thought, I am not a bard. So it took me, like I say, 6-7 years to do it. And I just handed in my review and I was at a gathering of shamans and I started telling stories. I just took one of the myths, one of the Irish legends, and I thought, I'm going to make that my own and tell it in my own way. And that's what started it.
Mm,
And and I suppose, I mean, the reason I didn't value my joke telling was like, oh, that's just for entertainment. And
mm,
stories are for entertainment, but they're also for healing, for questioning, for sharing ideas, for taking another look into something. They're really, really profound. And then, so I started. And it was never part of my plan. It's just these things. Well, I was never going to be a druid or a psychologist. These all evolved. And it's been, I suppose, a magical process. And then I'm a celebrant of weddings and I will have, what would you say, rites of passage.
mm.
And I started, there's a story I always tell at a wedding, a love story. And I thought, oh, people like it, and I began to really value it. So now I'm doing more and more storytelling. And I was in Morocco in September. I was with a Moroccan teller who was with me in August. We did this collaboration where he was looking, it was his idea, to look at the invisible threads between Amazigh culture and Irish culture. So he came for Lunasa. He was here at our Lunasa ceremony in the Grove, took him to Ishnok, Sacred Wells, Magic Lakes. We did a performance, the harp and the gimbri, which is a traditional Moroccan instrument. And then I went to him for 2 weeks. And then I met a shuefa, a witch, a shaman, did healing rituals. And it was just mind blowing. And looking at these threads between the two. And then we had a performance and weaving through stories. And stories are universal. And so, like, the stories I'm telling are just as relevant. It's the myths I'm interested, the Irish myths. But I tell them from a woman's voice, or I take a character that has had 2 mentions and that's it, and I go, wait a second, this person is key. I'm going to, usually a woman, tell her story. And stories are universal, and you can talk about idiots of dictators that have been elected by sensible voters back in the midst of legends, and you see, my God, nothing changes. Or women who have not been allowed to look after their children, whose children have been taken from them. That's a number of our stories have that motif.
Mm.
That's been our history here as well, more recently. So looking at that, these stories speak to us.
Mm. And sorry, no, you go.
No, go on.
Well, I was just going to ask you what your favorite story is.
Oh, don't ask me that. I don't have a favorite story.
If you had to, if you had to choose one story to tell in the time that we're in, like in this kind of moment in time, is there a particular story that kind of that resonates with you?
Oh God, there's three. So there's the one, the love story I tell, because it's around non-possessive love, and it's around shape-shifting, and when you're not fitting the norm, being accepted for who you truly are. A really important story. Then
Mm.
there's I mentioned the beer oak story. She's a little druid woman. She gets 2 mentions in this story, and she ensures that Lou is conceived and saves his life because his grandfather tries to kill him in order to prevent a prophecy. The story is, as it's told patriarchally, he saves Ireland from the Fomorians. But she did all that. That is around standing up for the oppressed, taking a stand and honouring all those people. And then there's one that's my own story, but it's about Sive, who was, she was, Finn McCool is a hero. His child was Usheen, but she was his mother. She's mentioned, she comes in the form of a deer in the story. She turns into a woman, or back into a woman, then she's pregnant, then she disappears and nobody hears of her again. I was like, It's a story of initiation. It's a story how we can step into our own power through a traumatic experience.
Mm.
And that's a really important story for me as well.
Mm. Oh, I think everyone listening and me are now thinking we want to hear these stories in full. And where can so I think you hold retreats, right? That's one of the kind of the main ways that you,
I've stopped because if somebody will organize one for me, I will do it. But I find
oh.
the organization of retreats really difficult.
Mm. So where can people, apart from organizing a retreat for you, where can people hear your storytelling? Is there any other ways that
Well, you see, it depends where I am. I had my own show in November in Kilkenny. It wasn't recorded or anything, but that was Manana Heron, which means the people of Ireland. And the subtitle was Ina Guffeina in her own voice. So I played the harp. I had 3 tunes on the harp, and then I had 3 stories. Um,
is that was that recorded?
no.
Oh.
So I have a number of stories on the fireside chats, but I can't tell you which ones they are. Um, that's a really hard one.
Well, people, I suppose, so people listening, so the fireside is the OBOD kind of platform, right? So people can join the order and then they can access those.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, no, the fireside chats are open to the public. So actually, if you
okay.
go on my YouTube channel, Eimear Burke YouTube, there are stories there that are recorded. I can just remember
Ah,
them.
lovely. Well, maybe one day we can invite you to tell a story to the ACE community and we can all dim our lights, put some candles on and
Oh, I'd love that.
you tell the
Absolutely.
story.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
think
yeah.
it works as well kind of over online
Well,
as
it's interesting. I would have said pre-COVID, no, no, no. But actually, Zoom storytelling, I think, mushroomed during COVID. So, and what it did was it brought tellers from all over the world together on a screen. So I remember being on Zoom storytelling groups, people from Canada, America, wherever, Australia, India,
Mm,
Asia coming. And what came from a lot of that was there's an international storytelling festival in Marrakesh. It goes every 2 years. They had it in 22, 23, and 25. Last January, we broke the world record for storytelling. There was a hundred of us. We did it over 4 days. Now I think we did 94 hours, but got accredited with 80 hours and a half or something like that. And that was absolutely amazing. And that was international tellers, Moroccan tellers, international tellers. So there are storytelling groups. I don't have time now, but every week there are Zooms where people go on and tell
mm,
stories. And I have many times.
mm. Wow, the Moroccan festival sounds incredible, the Moroccan
Absolutely.
gathering.
So it'll be next, they haven't got a date, it'll probably be January, February next year.
Nice to hear stories in the warm as well, in the
Yeah, it's cold at night. You bring your winter coat in January, February. But um, there was a 1,000-year-old tradition of storytelling in the Juma El Fana Square in Marrakesh. That's a big square, and that was became a UNESCO World Heritage, an intangible World Heritage Site, storytelling, and it was dying out. There's a guy, Richard Hamilton, a British journalist with the BBC, and I think he must have been the Moroccan or the North African correspondent, and he wrote a book published in 2013 saying the last storytellers of Marrakesh. It's revived.
Wow.
So there's young, like Zuhair, that man I was doing the residency with, he and a couple, Brahim and Henna, Daldali, they have a storytelling school in Marrakesh. Um, and they're training young tellers. So the older ones, there's still some old tellers left, but obviously as they die, now it's coming up. And then
Wow.
we've a big Moroccan Irish connection storytelling, tellers coming back and forth. And then there's the British Moroccan Society, and they're very, very supportive of storytelling in Morocco. And there's the World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh. That was set up, I suppose, by the British Moroccan Society.
Mm.
Um, there's a guy, Mike Woods, who owns a few, and his wife Lucy, who's a therapist actually. They are English, but they spent back and forth between Marrakesh and the UK, and they have set that up. And the cafe is a vegan cafe, and they have storytelling weekly there. And then they were also involved in cooking. There's a henna cafe where the storytelling there. You obviously get henna. They
Mm.
produce meat. They cook meals every day during COVID for people who didn't have it, and then
Wow.
did it during the after there was a terrible earthquake about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of what would you say, cultural exchanges.
Yeah, stories as cultural exchange. And interesting to think about the Moroccan and the Irish cultures weaving together because I would in some ways I thought of them as very different, but I'd be fascinated to
Well,
yeah.
there's a guy called Bob Quinn from Dublin but lives in Connemara. He's written a book called The Atlantean Irish, and he made a 4-part film called The Atlantean, and he looks at the Arabic influences, and he looked at Shanno singing, which is the old way of singing. In Connemara, and how similar it was to singing in North Africa. And
Wow.
it looks so. He
Mm.
has. I mean, it's controversial, but I think it's really fascinating.
Controversial.
Because archaeologists say, no, 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 there isn't. These are all Celts, and he goes, "Nah, no, 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 no. Let's look at this. Uh, he's looked at the Tatar. So Tatarstan is a state in near eastern Russia, around there, and their traditional singing sounds very like Shanno singing. Even the dhows, the traditional Arabic sailboats, are very like the hookers which are the traditional sailboats in Galway. So just it's fascinating. And this was, Zuhair looking at these invisible threads between Amasiach and
Mm.
Irish culture.
And are you planning any more collaborations with people from other, like, are there any more kind of these weavings that are
Well, I'm going to
planned?
Morocco now next November, do some more telling.
Mm.
Um, they're there, and then we have storytelling festivals here in Ireland, and we always bring in international tellers, and then there are storytelling festivals in the UK.
Mm.
I'm not going this year. I went to, how many did I go to last year? Two. I went to East Anglia Festival in June, and then I went to the festival at the Edge in July. So this year I'm not. I'm just taking it back a little bit,
Mm.
but going to the ones here.
And what
And I'm
about
going
in,
to Finland. Wait a second. I'm going to Finland.
oh,
I'm forgetting this. I'm hoping to. Um, they have an Irish festival there every year, and then been invited to the Athens Irish Cultural Festival around storytelling and Druidry.
mm,
So they're
wow.
interested. So I'm fascinated that you have, in countries who are interested in Irish music.
Well, the Irish legacy. My daughter really loves Irish kind of folk, like rowdy Irish folk music. It's her
That's
favorite.
coming back in. That
Yes.
was big when I was in the 70s, and then it died out. And my daughter is the same. And going, what? But it's interesting. I have very close friends, storytellers. They're Israeli Irish. They're stuck in Israel for personal reasons at the moment, but Irish citizens as well. And they have found a group of Israelis who play Irish music, and this is something that sustains them with
Yes.
the situation. These are
Yes.
absolute peace lovers, and
Yes.
their children were all born in Ireland or Scotland, um, for sound reasons. But they sent me a video, and I said, "What? These are all Israeli playing Irish music." I was just lovely, and it's that you get people from different cultures, different nationalities, who are interested in something that isn't theirs.
Mm.
I can play really, really well. And my daughter's in the Netherlands, and there's an Irish pub, and they have a session every Sunday, and none of them are Irish. I think the owner of the pub is Irish, and he plays with them, but the rest are all Dutch. And I'm
Yeah.
always intrigued, how the hell? And I've heard Japanese fiddle players in Galway playing. It's like, what? And that's lovely, just that cultural appreciation, weaving threads. And maybe if we can do more of that. And it's through
Yes.
the arts, it's through story, music, dance, that somehow we can push through all of this
Mm.
madness.
What do you think it is about? Because Ireland is so tiny. If you think about the whole globe, Ireland geographically is so small, but the impact of Irish culture, Irish music, Irish stories, the Irish heart almost is so enormous. Like one of the songs that my daughter loves and was playing for me the other day, it says, "There's an Irish pub in every town and 10 and whatever." And it's so true everywhere in the world, pretty much. You can go anywhere and there is an Irish pub. Why do you think?
I do not know, because we were colonized for 800 years, which was a very painful history. And, our language was banned. Catholicism, well, it was never strong, but banned, and then came back with a vengeance. Another story. And a huge insecurity around being Irish. Because when I joined OBOD, I didn't know if I'd be accepted because I was Irish. I didn't, because I had heard the dirty Irish, the lazy Irish. This was the UK, British stereotype of Ireland, drunken, all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't know, but it healed the wound between the two countries for me. This is one of the amazing, this is one of these, I don't know, it's one of these mysteries. Now people go spiritually, oh, it's all happening and all the healing will happen in Ireland. Maybe. Tommy Tiernan is an Irish comedian. He talks about, well, the Brits, they colonized the whole world, but the Irish, we infest it. So there are 80 million of the Irish diaspora around the world. There's 8 billion, but there's 80 million diaspora. I do not know. Given, the negative stereotypes, and there's so much like no Irish need apply, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, all that stuff. How is that surpassed? I have no idea. I really don't. Now, it's interesting, during the Dark Ages, uh, after the fall of the Roman Empire, did that bring on the Dark Ages? Can't remember. Ireland was known as the island of saints and scholars. So when Europe was in darkness, uh, culturally, spiritually, you name it, there were universities flourishing here. Even the Saxon kings sent their children over to study here, either to learn about herbs, medicine, you name it, came to Ireland. And then Ireland sent out missionaries to Europe and founded universities there.
Mm.
So there was a golden era in Ireland after the collapse of the Roman Empire when Europe was in darkness. This is one of these mysteries. We were known as the island of saints and scholars. Then the Vikings came and everything began to shift. I'm not blaming the Vikings, these things happen. And then the Normans came and the English came and all that stuff. And then it marked a rapid decline. But things come in cycles. So what was that? That we were the island of saints and scholars. It was Christian. It wasn't Druidic supremacy that was, or enlightenment. It was Christian. But still, it really, really interesting. And why people want an Irish pub or wherever you go. Another mystery, because I don't go to them. I've been to the one in the Netherlands with my daughter in Groningen. She took me there, but generally I stay away because I need to. If I'm traveling, I want to be. I love going to Italy. I don't want to be in an Irish pub. I want to be eating Italian food or wherever I am.
Mm.
But I think that's one mystery.
Mm.
It intrigues me. What
Yeah.
is it about it? I lived in Lesotho in the late early 90s, and so it's a tiny little country surrounded by South Africa. And my then husband, he used to act as in charge of a teacher program, but also would act as consul when the consul was away. But the consulate would have, so every country that was represented either with an embassy or a consulate would have whatever their national day was, and there'd be a big dinner and a dance or whatever it was, big celebration. The Irish one was always jam packed. It was very popular. I find that really strange. And I remember being there dancing with a really tall Nigerian man, swinging, doing Irish dancing. And he was in his traditional robes and swinging with them. And I thought, here I am. And he could do it because swinging in Irish dancing is not always easy. And but I remember watching all these different nationalities celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I thought, what is it? I have no idea.
Mm. Oh, yes. It's a beautiful question to ask, isn't it? And it
Hmm.
feels like it's one, probably the answer is more on some kind of, can't really put into words, but something around the what is it underneath the music and the art and the saints and the scholars and the the spirit of it. There's something underneath all of that that's some kind of essence that we long for in some way.
The first word comes in as grief and sorrow, which
Mm.
is, but we have, if you come across it, the Cauldron of Poesy. It's a text, an Irish text, and we have three cauldrons, and they kind of correspond to the three Jantien in Eastern cosmology. So you have your cauldron of warming, which is that cauldron in your belly that is always upright and that holds everything you've ever needed and ever will. There's a cauldron here in your chest, the cauldron of vocation or motion, and that can be upside down or on its side, but it needs to be upright. But in order for it to be upright, you need to have experienced sorrow and grief. And there's something around, and maybe this is about my own story, but like Howard, my husband, died almost 11 years ago. And that profound sorrow and grief, because we had a really good relationship, that has transformed me in many, many ways. And it allowed me to hold, paradoxically, grief and happiness, grief and joy together. It's taught me to be less fearful. There's so many things that I feel I have transformed through my own grief. And I don't know if there's something around sorrow and joy, grief, loss that pushes us into some level, different level of awareness or essence in some way. I don't know if I'm
Mm.
making sense.
You're making complete sense. It makes me think of a quote. I think it's maybe Khalil Gibran, or it might be somebody else, but the deeper sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. I'm probably saying it wrong, but that
I
idea
get that.
carves out a space to hold more. Well, I hope that when we have our conversation upcoming for our Q&A together, maybe we can go further into that
Yeah.
because we'll have a group of our ACE community, and yes, I think it's something that's very alive, particularly at this time of year because we're just about to go into the next tree and the Acer cycle, which is the Rowan tree, which for us is all around grief and grief as a way of accessing joy.
Well,
So,
if you want a story, I can tell you the Snipe story because that's around grief
oh
and
yes,
loss. So, and transformation. So, yeah,
we would love that. That
takes
would be
about 10 minutes, 10, maybe
oh
11 minutes.
yes, please. Yes, please. Oh, I can't wait. Emma, thank you so much for this. It's been I've loved this time with you, and I bet everyone listening has too. And just thank you so much.
Oh, it's just a lovely talking to you, Ross. Absolutely.
We'll be speaking again very soon.
It's 2 days, isn't it? Yeah, today's Monday. Yeah, Wednesday. Brilliant. Okay.
Looking forward so
Slán go
much.
fóill.
Thank
Slán.
you, Emma. Bye bye.
Bye.